Alright, Gear 5th. Luffy's long-awaited new form that should have caused the internet to crumble and to put Super Saiyan and Ultra Instinct in their place. Did it accomplish it? Well, it potentially could, because the latest One Piece episode is super strong staff-wise, given the presence of a top-tier director like Tatsuya Nagamine and a good chunk of phenomenal animators like Masayuki Sato, Tuyon Se, Vincent Chansor, Takashi Koshima and Naotoshi Shida, who all can give Luffy's new form the justice Oda deserves. Nonetheless, he didn't manage to quote-unquote break the internet as the double entry of Dragon Ball Super in October 2017, because I remember everyone being mind-blown by the debut of Ultra Instinct, whose nomenclature and ultimate countenance were all introduced within the episode, since the only preview we had received came from the opening, but didn't really spoil anything up to that point. Sure, the summaries did disclose cheering overpowering Goku's Kaioken Super Saiyan Blue times 20, and also him pushing back his Genki Dama, but all we heard about Ultra Instinct was a ki never seen before erupting from Goku's body. We used to call it a Limit Breaker. I guess lacking a manga as a prime reference clearly made the big revelation more astonishing, but then again, it's Dragon Ball we're talking about. Therefore, we do realize this franchise will always draw out the audience's feedback, for better and for worse, whereas One Piece doesn't reach the same amount of polarizing standpoints as Dragon Ball, in spite of remaining a gargantuan product currently facing a stellar time period in which the animes hardly ever looked this good. Yet I feel the seniority status of Dragon Ball will always gain the upper hand, no matter its efforts. That said, any sort of competition over which form is better, Gear 5th, Super Saiyan, Ultra Instinct, leaves me utterly indifferent. Why? Because Gear 5th is objectively a fantastic power-up, as it's a return to slimmer and animation-friendly designs, which we haven't seen since Gear 2nd and Gear 4 Snake Man to a degree, and the concept altogether doesn't want to challenge Ultra Instinct directly, but actually wants to remind us why we like Ultra Instinct in the first place by doing the total opposite. Both forms represent the peak of Goku and Luffy's training, but if Ultra Instinct must rely on the user's seraphic attitude, blank expressivity and reluctance to play around, at least on Super Anime and Heroes, because Toyotaro is basically treating it as a commonplace power-up, it makes me sick, let's move on! Luffy's reversely in an overexcited and playful mood, as he laughs and bounces around uncontrollably, and that slimmer countenance makes it much easier to illustrate, unlike the intricate bulk of Gear 4th, which doesn't really differ from Super Saiyan 3 much in terms of sturdiness and fallacy. On top of that, it's not even as unimaginative as Gear 3rd, resembling Gear 2 but with an inflatable fist, because it puts Luffy in a whole new light, with his Gear 4th shaped hair, eyebrows and clothes turning white minus the purple belt, totally giving the idea of dealing with an ultimate form made even more unique by his unlikely clumsy overexcitement. Oda essentially subverted the stronger they get and more menacing they look trope by emphasizing Luffy's more cartoonish side up to 11. Accordingly, the episode in question nails every single aspect of it, by illustrating a ludicrous power-up in an even more preposterous fashion. Visual-wise, it looks sensationally complete, also considering the atmospheric mood played by Nagamine's direction, through its distinctive lighting and evocative framings, which seems to share a small pattern with episode 110 of Super, with the second half being the core of the action, yet showcasing an opposite approach. While Mitsuka's entry did place his bets on Tate, Takahashi and Shida's talent, following a more traditional pattern of universal scuffles, this episode decides to go all out by telling the animators to not simply astound the viewers, but to confuse them completely. And what a flabbergasting journey this is, it experiments anything. Background animation overdose, impact frame profusion, omitting outlines, destructuring limbs, eyeballs on the loose, Kaido in pain like Wild E. Coyote, and take on me like sketches. I can barely describe the events of the second act. My expectations were really high, but this is just crazy. and the fact this is a weekly anime makes the whole thing even more astonishing. Considering how skittish Gear 5th is, it wouldn't be surprising to find out Oda was inspired by Golden Age media, like the Tom and Jerry slapstick in classic 2D animation. He certainly must have had a lot of fun depicting his new form as hyperbolic as possible. Well, perhaps a bit too hyperbolic and cartoonish due to the endless amount of sound effects from Hanna-Barbera and Warner Brothers archives, which I admit, they kinda get in the way, they're quite distracting in the long run. Sure, the episode remains super strong, I highly recommend it even to non-One Piece fans, but I'm afraid it's got two massive sins. The first one being the kinda sluggish first act, which wasn't an issue in TV Special Super because the Genki Dava Struggle 110 followed a pretty action-packed 109, so it makes more sense to catch your breath during the marathon and not before. The second flaw is the reused clips in the end, which I didn't expect to be this disjointed from a Nagamine episode. He once proved he could make flashback bits more functional, I just don't get why such a nuke of an episode would end on such a deceiving note. Then again, such a marathon has been a toil altogether, and they were definitely running out of breath. In any case, this may not be the most perfect One Piece entry, but went so close. It didn't break the internet like Ultra Instinct, but its fandom shouldn't complain much either, since their series is in a great shape and constantly demonstrates it every week. I personally enjoyed this episode a ton, the new form looks fantastic and all of those Dragon Ball One Piece debates feel a bit pointless. Animation is one of the main shapes of entertainment, unless you count Shaggy since he beats anyone.